Cool, that one done. So, as currently is going on, for those who are unaware, who are watching this video because they are interested in the actress, I'm currently in the middle of releasing my Japan videos. This has been the 5th one that I've just finished rendering, which probably came out way before this video comes out anyway. And so, because it's a new month, July, and I was like, I want to do something that seems in the theme of Japan for my reviewing actor series. And I know, people probably want Keanu Reeves Part 2. We're getting there. I have to watch 10 films for that. So, yeah. So that'll come out very early August. And so I wanted to do a review of Masami Nagasawa films. Who is Masami Nagasawa? She was a Japanese actress. I have actually... So, I guess to set up the theme. Why am I reviewing her films? Purely by chance. When we were in Japan, which the video should come out the day before this, that actually explained the context of the day, we went to an island, came back to the hotel, but before we went to the hotel, we wanted to see a film. We wanted to buy tickets to see a film, at least. And so we, after 30 minutes of debating which film, because none of it seemed interesting, and there was no, we wanted to go with a Japanese film, but we didn't know what more than half of them were, because, of course, there was no real English on describing what they were half the time, and the rest of the American films we'd either already seen, or they weren't screening them anymore, because it was, past a certain time of day. So we decided, just by looking at the little store there, we're like, oh, this film, this film looks interesting. And it's a film called The Confidence Man, the movie. I think it's Confidence Man JP, the movie. I don't know what the JP stands for, either way. And so we're like, yeah, sure. I'd gotten a brief glimpse of it, so we looked at the trailer, literally just stood there and just watched the trailer. And again, most of it wasn't in English, but for what we could understand, it was like a comedy crime heist movie. And we were like, yeah, sure, we won't understand what's happening because there probably won't be English subtitles, but let's do it anyway. Sat down, watched the film, the rest is history. A few days later, plane ride home, we decided to watch a film, because of course, planes now, you can watch in plane theatres on your screen. We decided to watch, I ended up watching 5 films, that flat as it was, but both Dad and I decided to watch a film called The Masquerade Hotel, which also stars Masami Nagasawa in the lead. She's realistically the lead of both of these films. In the Confidence Man, she's in a trio, but she is the lead in the trio. The story mostly revolves around her as it is. Because it literally, thematically, starts with her dreaming, and it's like, this is what she wants. She wants this. And it's like, okay, cool. We know who our main character is. Though it's based, adapted from a TV show, we know who the main character is. The Masquerade Hotel, she's the lead next to another guy. She being the connoisseur, the hotelier, actually, they call it. And him being a detective. And I looked her up once we got back home, because I was reviewing the films on Letterboxd, and I realized, oh my god, I've seen her in films before. 3 films that I own on DVD. One of them, Your Name, where she plays a character called Miki. I can't remember the surname. She plays Miki Okadura, she's one of the side characters, but she is a main side character. So I decided, okay, good, I can watch that. It'll be something different because it's both an anime, like it's an actual animation, and it's voice acting. So it's something different, something I've never done before. I think that'd be cool. And the last two are two Godzilla films. I've watched them both before. This is Godzilla Tokyo SOS and Godzilla Final Wars. I rewatched Final Wars for this review, hoping that she'd be in much more than I had thought she was. Conveniently, she plays pretty much the same character in both films, even though they're in a different chronology. She plays a fairy, a twin fairy, and I know that she has more of a role in Tokyo SOS, but it's a sequel, and I've seen the original, I've seen the one that's a sequel from, but I just decided that I wouldn't watch that. I might, whilst filming this, go check out just some brief scenes, see if there's anything different. So that's my setup for this video, and my Japan cup from Starbucks. Never even purchased anything at Starbucks before except for this cup. And it's a very, very big cup. So yeah, let's get into this episode. So yeah, there's your setup. Let's go on it, shall we? It'll be a different take at least. Even if you don't watch the films or have never watched these films, it's a different take. So yeah, welcome to another reviewing actor films where I'm doing a Japan special. Yeah, should have probably started with that line. And of course we're doing Masami Nagasawa. 5 films as established. Technically 4 because the 5th one I haven't actually watched yet as filming this, and I don't think I've watched it before. I haven't watched it in the past year or two. I think I watched it last year. Yeah, potentially last year I watched it, and I know it's a good film. It's probably a 3.5 star film. Most Godzilla's films are. Obviously, the best ones being like the original Godzilla, Shin Godzilla, and a couple others. So yeah, I guess we can just dive into it. I've already established the context, so let's go. The Confidence Man, JP the movie, is very strange. I feel like I should give context as to why I've established why we watched it in the theatre. I guess I should establish what it was like to watch this film in theatre. It was different. To watch a film that's in a completely different language that you have absolutely no idea what they're saying because there's no subtitles, it can get irritating. Conveniently, the only 2 films I've ever watched, which includes The Confidence Man, so the other film I cannot remember the name of, but I remember it's the only thing my dad bought for me from Japan outside of like a t-shirt. I think it was the second trip to Japan he went on, because of course this trip to Japan I went with him. He bought me a DVD. And the DVD was like a remake of like an 80s action film about like a schoolgirl whose like family is connected, like get kidnapped by the mafia or some bullshit, I don't know. It's kind of a cliche story as it is. And so I watched the film, didn't have any subtitles because for some reason it just didn't. And I might not have looked hard enough on the disc, but I'm very sure I looked hard enough. I watched maybe, it was probably, let's say it was a 2-hour film. I probably watched maybe an hour and a half of it before I got bored and went to bed. The idea being is that the first hour and a half, I knew exactly what was going on. Like, there were obvious details about characters' backstories and stuff like that they weren't showing visually, but for the most part, everything was very cliche, everything was very set up. I'm not going to say cliche in the bad way of cliche, I'm going to say cliche in the way of, you know it, you recognize it, you've seen this before in previous films. Maybe it's not a big thing that you've seen before, but visually you understand what's going on. Sometimes it's music cues, sometimes it's visual cues. Sometimes it may even be how the characters are acting. Even if you're not understanding what they're saying, you know what's going on. So that was the same deal with The Confidence Man, which is convenient. You know, I've watched plenty of films in my life, so I know how they go. And I'm like, I know exactly what's happening For the whole entire film, I knew exactly what was happening, except for some minor details, especially towards the end, when they reveal all these twists and stuff. I won't go into the plot of the film, because it's not why we're here. I'm not reviewing the films, though I do provide a review for the films. We're here for the actress. But in terms of my viewing of it, it was... I really enjoyed myself. It's a mental, crazy-ass film. And I have to read my review because I can't remember half of what I wrote. So it's a film that is directed by Ryo Tanaka. I don't know him either. In which Masami plays Dako, who is the main character of the film. And this is set up very visually as well, both because, she's the first person seen in the film. She has the opening dream sequence, which was like the only part in English because it's English music. And when they have their opening credits thing, being like the Confidence Man, JP the movie, you got free slides, like free, split screen stuff. You got the older dude, you got the younger dude, and you got the girl. And it goes, older dude goes first, younger dude goes second, then she is the last person there on the screen. So it's obviously trying to say, we're focusing on her. She's the main character of the film. Fair enough. It works. And her storyline is easily the main focus of the film, to the point that it engulfs literally the whole romantic plot of the film as well, which is quite interesting. So, this crime film was actually an adaptation of a TV series, like adaptation/sequel. A TV series called The Confidence Man with the same cast, same three main characters, came out in, I believe it was 2018, maybe 2017. From what IMDb says, they haven't done a second season. Instead, they made a movie. Now, I don't know if that was because it wasn't popular. It seems that it got really good reviews. I didn't do too much in-depth research, but from what I could tell, it looked pretty fun. It seemed that the movie was like an extended version of what these episodes could be. Like, these episodes, like, half an hour, 45-minute episodes. Like, they're all, like, crime comedy dramas, where they, the main characters are trying to, like, scam rich people and trying to, become rich because of it. And so that's obvious that there has been some payoff from the TV show set that is very evident at the start of the movie. It's like, okay, well, they've obviously got enough money because she's living in, like, a penthouse apartment with, like, 2 butlers. But she's not overly rich. You can tell that she likes looking and dressing like a regular common folk person. And they do for the majority of the film, too. They even stay in apartments that look great, but aren't like... They don't look all white, pristine, marble and crap. They look like they'd be a fun place to stay. Like, oh crap, this is a staircase. But it's not like a spiral staircase, it's not staircases built in the wall, it's just there, and you can see on top of the balcony, which is actually inside the house at the same time. It's crazy. It's quite a nice, they have a lot of nice set designs, even though it's, we're rich and whatever, but they're not. But they have enough money that they can do what they want with it, especially enough to pay for all the stuff that they need for their schemes, which also quite helps for the story. Because it's like, where do they get all these money for all these ridiculous costumes and plane tickets and stuff? Oh, they stole it. Simple as that. There were words I should mention that I actually did know from Japanese. Specifically, I've written down nani, which means, I think it means what? But for the most part, in most contexts it means what. But yeah, so that was fun. Thank you, anime memes. But yeah, for the most part, there were some big twists and story elements that I didn't understand because it was very verbally stated. But for the most part, it's one of those films where it's like, oh yeah, remember these characters here? Here's your visual reveal. Boom, takes off, Mission Impossible 2 face mask to reveal I'm a different character. That's how crazy it goes. And in terms of that, I should say, in general, I thought this film was really fun. I actually think that, what did I say? So it was out there, and to me, it felt like a Mission Impossible film. But Tom Cruise is replaced by 20 different Japanese actors, all with very distinct, sometimes cliche personalities. But for the most part, even caricatures if you want to. But for the most part, it was still fun as all hell. And Dad said that he thought that the film was more like the Thomas Crown Affair. I've never seen that, but from by the looks of it, most people agree it is like the Thomas Crown Affair. If I don't drink it, it'll get cold. Cold coffee is bad. I mean, if you make coffee warm and then it goes cold, then it's bad. If you buy it and it's cold, then it's okay. I'm not going to chuck ice blocks in there. I'm not crazy. So the plot synopsis, according to Asian Wiki. Ran Ryu is a member of the Triad in Hong Kong. She is cold-blooded and appropriately called the Ice Princess. Ran Ryu possesses the best diamond in the world. Darko, who is played by Masami, Boku-chan, and Richard. For some reason he's called Richard. He's the younger guy, I believe. That seemed the most obvious thing. Attempts to steal the diamond from Ran Ryu. Meanwhile, handsome conman Jesse also tries to get the diamond. So the film is a heist film. It involves a romantic... I said romantic subplot, but realistically, the film is set up as a heist. We're going to steal this. And then, when in their attempt to steal it, like to get closer to the person, it turns out that there's this vital character who's like a bodyguard for the person, who actually is like an ex-boyfriend of the main character, Masami, played by Masami, and then suddenly it's like, but he also has a romantic subplot with the Ice Princess, and it's like, they are getting close to the Ice Princess to steal her diamond, but he is also trying to steal her diamond, and they're both con people, and they had previously dated, but he's dating the Ice Princess, and like, it just escalates from there, and it becomes, it becomes very overdramatic at times, in terms of the stuff like that, the kind of stuff where like a character gets shot to protect the person he or she or they love, and then suddenly it's like, oh my god, what is happening? People are getting shot out of the blue. 2 minutes later, the guy pops up on screen. I didn't die, I faked it. To the point that there is one part in this film where they fake a death. Well, a guy gets shot, you get them in hospital, and then one of the main characters is there in the hospital, falls asleep, wakes up, the person's gone, she goes to check, oh, where's, the person I love that was shot? Are they still alive? There's no one there. The whole building that was set up as a hospital, to the point that it had like hundreds of extras there, deserted. That's the kind of level of holy crap they go for their cons, to set up just one fake scene, instead of just being like Mission Impossible Fallout, where they have their one fake hospital room and they have a news reporter who isn't even a news reporter, it's Simon Pegg in a mask. Still, that is like outlandish in the attempt of like, they have enough money to just box it in, because the guy, because obviously the guy that they're trapping is the guy who's already in the bed, whereas this person can walk around and can be free in this hospital, so they have to go more overboard. It's ridiculous. But actually, for the most part, I still quite liked it. Again, some of the stuff was predictable. This is going to happen. But, like, I was so entranced that I'm like, no, I'm totally cool with this. It's mental, it's crazy, but I like it. So let's talk about Nagasawa as it is. So Masami Nagasawa obviously was the piece de la resistance of the film. She starts off the film and she is crazy and over the top, and she's screaming from her chair, and it's great, and I loved it. And I'm like, this is what I paid my money for. This is great. 10 out of 10 already. Like, she's the over-the-top protagonist, and she just is a joy to watch, You can tell that her character's like, I want to steal this fucking diamond. Like, yeah, boy, let's get into this. But then, of course, it becomes more dramatic, and she has this relation with the ex-boyfriend who's the con man, and like all this stuff, and it's just like, suddenly it just turns really dramatic, and she has such a dramatic card that she plays, and she's so good at it, and I'm like, what the hell is happening? How is this actress so good at just doing this? It's crazy. But it works. It's crazy, but it works. Now, the twists are very twisty. So it's kind of really complicated to explain the twists, so obviously I won't, because I'm not going into that kind of the review of the film. Like these videos, I just go into the review, I set up what the film is, explain it, sell it to you in my own way, and give you enough context as to why and how the character has to perform in this film. So yeah, I scored the film a 3.5 out of 5 stars, even though I didn't know what the hell I didn't know what they're saying. I definitely guaranteed it. I think it was in my Letterboxd review, I was like, I'm definitely going to buy this film on DVD so I can actually understand what the hell they were saying. Still, anyway, so, I mean, if you are an English-speaking person and you want to get, if you want to watch this film, you can watch it without the English subs. I definitely would not do it with English dub. But yeah, I definitely said the film's fun. I had a blast watching it. I think Masami is great in it. She's obviously definitely the showstopper. She's the reason why you go to watch the film, outside of the property of it being, the Confidence Man. I think all the characters are great. All the performances are really fun. They're all very committed to the roles, and I'm just like, this is 10 out of 10. I love it. Perfect. So yeah, I had a blast watching it. What's next? Let's be very visually under-impressive in this video and just go straight into hitting my mirror with the back of my chair. I'm great at this, aren't I? So, Masquerade Hotel. This film was directed by Masayuki Suzuki. This is like the last time I'm mentioning the director's name for the rest of the video. So, Masquerade Hotel is a crime film set in a hotel where the police have figured out that a crime will take place there, due to evidence being planted at different crime things. It's like, oh, here's a set of numbers, and they realize, oh, it's a geographical location, and the next one from this most recent murder is at the hotel. An investigation begins of the serial killer, and Detective Kosuke Nita, played by Takuya Kimura, who's the lead male character in the film, works on the case. He believes the next murder will take place at the Hotel Koratasai, Tokyo, and to catch the killer, Nita has to go undercover and begins working at the front desk of the hotel. So he becomes a hotelier as a disguise, so he can capture this person. A lot more of the detectives also do that as well, but some of them are just, in like conference rooms or whatever, just sitting there waiting for something to happen. Naomi Yamagishi, played by Masami, works at the front desk of the hotel. She is selected to train Nita for his front desk job, but of course, as cliche goes, they can't get along. Which is also a plotline that gets dropped really quickly. It's one of those things of like, oh, hey, let's make it kind of charming and giddy that like they can't get along for the first 20 minutes of the film, and then suddenly something kind of dramatic happens enough that it's like, they just kind of click. And it's more or less once they bond, they start getting used to learning from each other's work. Like, oh, she learns detective stuff from Nita, whereas he learns how to be a hotelier, how to be a professional in that industry. And they began to respect each other and each other's positions. And obviously, because their friendship develops over the film, he reveals certain details about his past, she reveals certain details about her past and stuff like that, and now my coffee is cold. And for them, it works. It's that kind of thing. But then, also most of the stuff that they actually set up through this backstory stuff, like, oh, I had this thing about this thing. Oh, we had this woman come in, and she was like a stalker or whatever, and I told her to, hit the road. Yes, that happens in the film. They actually come back later. So it's not like we're using this time to set up these characters and then just forget about those stories and just have to remember that. They actually reutilize it, because it's like, here is actually a setup for a story you don't realize is going to continue throughout the rest of the film. Whether it be just a dramatic thing for the character, or whether it be related to the whole narrative of the film. I'll try not to spoil it, I promise, given that I actually know what these people are saying. This one's very talkative. This one is the visuals are less of the cliche visuals and more of hey, give some great cinematography, because why not? We're looking fancy because this place is fancy and it looks great. The cinematography is really good, actually. It's my favorite aspect of the film. So Nita is focused on catching the killer, but Naomi prioritizes the safety of the guests. Of course, because why wouldn't she? Her job is to take care of the guests, the people who stay at the hotel. As they begin to understand each other's differences, they also begin to trust each other. But who is the murderer? Dun 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 dun. Drama ensues. So yeah, again, Masami takes the lead, but shares it rather equally with Kimura, and they both do a pretty good job, especially their chemistry together works pretty well. Firstly, I watched this on the plane, so I had subtitles, which is good. I knew what was going on. So I especially was able to understand every single dynamic of the film, because it's a dialogue-heavy film. It is quite a long film, too. It's like 2 hours and 10 minutes or something. Like, it's long. To my knowledge, it's based off a manga of some kind, I think. I might be wrong, because I did watch another film on the plane, which was like Fly Me to Saitama, which was also based off a manga. So the hotel one might not have been. Either way, it's long and detailed, but at the same time, you're getting mystery, you're getting drama, you're getting enough time to develop the characters, and also enough time to set up the mystery. Plus, you get all these mini mysteries along the path, which helps build the characters together. Which a lot of people I saw who reviewed the film afterwards, because I think I'll mention in a bit what I reviewed it, but there were people who criticized the film for being, because it was like, oh, it's too long, it's over bloated by all these, different extra character stories. But like, when you think about it, all the character stories in the film are specific in relation to the main two characters. There's never a story that's, oh, this side character here, we're going to have him deal with this. No, never happens. Everything is, I was going to say outside of like, our main detective character, Nita, he has an ex-partner who shows up a few times, who's actually played by one of the guys from The Confidence Man. I'm like, oh, hey, it's that guy. He does have a small plot line, but it revolves in the big murder mystery, plus also identifies more of Nita's backstory. So, again, everything in it, all these little mysteries that they go through, it's like, oh, is this the killer, or why is this the hotel guest annoying? Did this hotel guest steal this stuff? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, maybe it's all a ruse to do this instead. It all builds up the characters, the idea of how the hotel works, how the system works, how Nita works as a detective, how Masami's character works as a hotelier. And it all works pretty well. Arguably, yes, it's a bit long and a bit bloated because of it, and they could have skewed it down a little by maybe cutting out a few of these plot lines and focusing more on the murder mystery. But I kind of liked this aspect to it. I liked the idea of like, oh, it's a murder mystery, but we're going to focus on the characters instead of the mystery. The mystery is a constant thing. It's a constant reason why they're all there, and it's like, oh, could this person be the killer? No, but they actually have a relation to this character for this reason, or this action that the character takes to resolve this issue reflects quite highly on her character. It just does well. I preferred that as someone who likes interesting characters, sometimes over an interesting story. Again, depends on your film, but yeah, it was quite nice. So yes, in terms of her performance, it was simplistic and refined, very much in accordance to her character. Like, her character is not uptight, but is like, I am professional, I am a hotelier, I prioritize the guest. It's like, that's what she does. She has some dramatic moments where she talks about previous backstories to do with previous guests. There's nothing much about any of these two when it comes to like their family or love life or anything. It's focused strictly in the confines of the building. But that doesn't really matter because you're looking at them, their characters established from their professions. You understand how each of them works in their professions, which establishes their character more. And then you get more dramatic stuff as they start to intertwine their stories together, which is it's pretty nicely done. She isn't as dramatic dramatically dynamic as she was in The Confidence Man, given that in The Confidence Man it's also a comedy plus it's a drama heist movie, so of course you get her being crazy and bonkers, and then 20 minutes later she's like down and depressed, and it's dramatic and stuff, and it's good. Like, you can tell she has a wide acting range, but this film proves that she also can just stick to one character, to one range of acting for like the whole film. She's like, I will act like this professional would, like this character would. Sometimes if there are dramatic elements, I will be dramatic, but there's no need for comedic stuff. She doesn't go bonkers or anything. Like, she doesn't just randomly go cross-eyed halfway throughout the film for no reason. She just sticks to her character and she does it well. I like that about it. So, yeah, I definitely enjoyed her performance. She definitely retained this professional aspect of her character throughout the film, whilst also allowing for more dramatic moments with Kimura's character. But this also mostly related to her past with a previous guest, which also fuels the main story. But overall, I think it was a pretty solid role, especially that it wasn't as silly as The Confidence Man was, which I don't mind. I liked this more nuanced, stick to the one character kind of thing, whereas so in the context of the film, her role really works, and the way she acts really works. In The Confidence Man, the same deal. You know, she will be acting silly and whatever because that's who her character actually is, but then suddenly she'll get into more dramatic stuff because it's like, a clown has to cry at some stage kind of thing, you know? So it still works. So it's not really a criticism against her performance of The Confidence Man, more of it's just a different dynamic. Overall, I think she was pretty solid in this film. I have already said that. So I gave the film a 4.5 out of 5 stars due to the production design and camera work mostly, but also because I think the acting and directing and even the editing at times, they were all really good. So I quite liked it a lot. I definitely would highly suggest this. I'd suggest both of these two films, definitely. Realistically, I'm going to suggest all these films on the list, but that's a whole different matter. So, yeah. Now let's go and look at Your Name. Your Name is a 2016 film directed by Makoto Shinkai. And what have I written about this film? So I actually have, so now we're in the part of the video where I'm like, I have seen all of these next 3 films before. Again, still not doing a review for Tokyo SOS, but it is a good film, so it's good. Problem is that I'll get to it in a minute. So Masami plays Miki Okudera. Why are these names so hard to pronounce? Next time, no Japan videos. She is a woman that Taki works with, Taki being the boy, pretty much. So he works with her, and he also has a crush on her at the beginning of the film, but slowly develops feelings for Mitsuha. I remember him saying that a lot now. It's the girl, Mitsuha. That's the lead.
Who are you talking to?
The camera. Hi, camera. How's it going? So, Your Name. I guess I should detail what the film is about. The film is good. It's gorgeous. Go watch it. Pretty much these two people wake up and suddenly they're in each other's bodies. It's a classic body swap film like that Freaky Friday, I think it was. I don't know. I don't watch that crap. Let me read the description. Mitsuha and Taki are 2 total strangers living completely different lives, but when Mitsuha wakes makes a wish to leave her mountain town for the bustling city of Tokyo, they become connected in a bizarre way. She dreams she's a boy living in Tokyo, while Taki dreams he is a girl from a rural town he's never been to. They swap bodies. Like the first part of the first like third of the film, when like they both believe it's a dream, it's quite funny, except for the fact that they're like, "Oh, you were so strange yesterday." What do you mean I was strange? Well, suddenly you forgot your own name, and it's like you get like all these like comedic parts, stuff that could have been really funny to watch someone in the body of someone else. Like you get the stuff when they're isolated, when they're themselves. Like, you know, she wakes up as Taki. Taki's in his house, and he says goodbye to his dad. Of course, it's still her. She has no idea. She's like, this dream is so realistic. And then she has to go to the bathroom, and she's like, oh no. And so straight away you're like, okay, this is already something, it's already funny enough, but like, hey, she has to, you know, go to the bathroom in a guy's body. And so she's, you know, again, that impression of, it's a weird dream. And of course, it all escalates from there, the second half being just, especially the last act is bloody insane. But for the most part, I actually really quite liked it. It's a very good film. Of course, you can watch it in English if you wanted to. I watched it in Japanese because I think I originally watched it in English. I don't recall, actually. I think usually what I do with some animes is I like to watch it in English first to understand the story and to be able to really admire the animation. Because, you know, if you got to read and then you got to look at the screen at the same time, it's like, sometimes, yeah, they talk too fast, especially, so the translation has to go by really fast. Either way, I do it how I want to do it, you know, like, I don't always go, if it's an animation, for the most part, I always go with the dub first, then I watch the subtitles. But if it's Godzilla film, the dub is hilarious. Shockingly so. So I grew up watching a lot of dub Japanese films for Godzilla. But most animes, I always watch the actual subtitles, which I don't mind. Subtitles are good, fun. Anyway, so in connection to the main character Taki, so I guess what can I say about her character of Miki? She's, I mean, realistic and three-dimensional. No pun intended. No pun intended. She's, you know, quick to realize how different Taki is on a given day, because she's obviously like, you know, Mitsuo's grandma realizes like, oh, you know, you're dreaming, because she's like, oh, it's a past thing in our family where like we will, when we're young, we'll like dream that we're someone else for a small period of time, and like they all go through it kind of thing, all the girls at a certain age. And Miki doesn't exactly realize that element, but she realizes that, you know, he's got a more feminine side on some days, where they get along more, because it's more like they're acting like they're sisters, you know, rather than they are acting like two people who are on a date. But she starts to like him for that aspect, the feminine side, who is obviously Mitsuo in his body. And then Mitsuo sets them up for a date, and that's when, you know, he's like, I don't know what's going on, because, like, you know, he doesn't know her that well because he hasn't been able to talk to her that much. And so they just kind of decide to call it quits, like, let's just be friends. So they do. So in terms of her relation to the story, they have that part, the second part of the film. She and another friend go with Taki to find Mitsuo, and then for the last act, no spoilers, I guess, for the actual last act itself, but like she only shows up one more time near the end of the film, and it just clarifies that, like, oh, you know, they've both graduated from high school and whatever, and it's like a few years past or whatever, but they're still friends. They, you know, whenever she goes to the city, she meets up with him for a day or for a few hours. They go out and have lunch or have dinner or just, you know, hang out and talk and whatever, and then that's it. So her character doesn't have much of an arc, because she just kind of gradually, you know, distances herself from Taki, but at the same time, it's not a bad character. I mean, she is a secondary character. She's the lead secondary character, pretty much, like, because, you know, half of the film revolves around, you know, their relationship with her and Taki, so, you know. But yeah, But after the romantic subplot subsides, they become friends, and they don't really. She does have that big part in the second act, but then she just disappears. She's not really. I wouldn't say after the romantic subplot ends. Realistically, there's no reason for her character to stick around. But it's probably easy to keep her around than having to introduce a new character or a new couple of characters to kind of replace that element. So it's like, hey, well, we've already got her. Of course, this is based off a manga, so probably the original manga writers were like, well, look, we've already got her, so we'll just have him and her, given that they've now developed a strong connection and a good relationship just as friends, and then they'll go off and explore, and then they'll just, like, as time goes by, here's a slap in the face of reality. Some people walk away and sometimes come back and say good day, but then they just walk away again, because that's life. Yeah. So, her performance, I guess it was good. Like, it's kind of hard to review voice actors, for one thing, because sometimes it's very easy. If it's an English voice actor, obviously, because English is my first speaking language, and I don't have a second spoken language, so English, it's very easy to tell if a voice actor is good or not. Sometimes you can tell. I haven't really seen any bad anime, for example, or anything that's a voice work thing that has bad voice acting that's in a different language. I can't say I've ever actually seen anything or heard anything that's like that, so I can't really criticize. I guess in terms of Masami's performance, she's fine. Like, she plays a character. I don't really recognize her too much as Masami. Like, some animated features, they focus so much on their cast, and it's like, oh, we've got this really big cast, and half the time you're being like, who is that voice? And you're, like, completely distracted from the film itself. She never distracted me from the film. Half the time I forgot it was even her. I'm like, oh, yeah, no shit, this is the girl I'm reviewing. So she blends in enough, but at the same time it's because, for me, she's, Japanese, so it's that contrast, but also because, I'm not a great fan. I wouldn't recognize her voice off off a video ad or anything like that. Like, her face, I would recognize. Her voice, not so much. Still, distinct enough, but yeah. So it is hard enough to review, voice work for an anime that's in a different language. Still, I took up the task, and I think it was good. I think she did a good job. I think they all did a good job, realistically. There didn't really seem to be a part that was bad. So, there you go. That's really all I can really say. Like, she feels natural as her character, which is good. That's what you really want it to be. She doesn't get anything, like, that's overly dramatic or anything whatever, so you don't have to worry about that, but for the most part, it's perfectly fine. The film itself, because how can I not talk about the film? The film is beautiful. It's gorgeously animated. The story, though, it gets a little complicated, and it just kind of gets a little messy in certain sequences. For the most part, overall, pretty good, damn fine film. In fact, I think I gave it like a 4 out of 5 stars. Because it's set in modern day Japan, it gave me a lot of throwbacks to, obviously, when I was in Japan. And because I was in Japan from the 1st of June, I watched this on the 1st of July, and I'm just like, wow, I feel like I'm back to where I was a month ago. Same sound effects, same look, even, like, to the point that they even had, like, one of them had their iPhone out that was looking at a station. I think it was Shinjuku, and I'm like, that's exactly what the map looks like. Like, I mean, of course, it's probably not hard to animate a Google map kind of thing, but, like, it's the fact of, like, that's not just what it looks like. I remember looking at that exact same map when we were trying to find where the Godzilla Hotel was, and I'm like, it's just like, boom, mind blown, even though it's reality, it's... Trust me, when the first thing I realized when we got to Japan was like, wow, there are so many rice fields, I feel like I'm in a Ghibli film. Like, I felt like I was in My Neighbor Totoro. That's just how it was when I first got to Japan. I didn't think much of this because I hadn't watched this since 2017, I think, when I got it. So that was unfortunate, but at the same time, it was still fun. But yeah, so it was definitely quite a throwback to watch this and, like, look at the kind of the reality and be like, oh, so much contrast, so good, oh my god. And of course the animation is gorgeous, so... But yeah, so the story drives into many twists that emotionally resonate with the audience, which is very anime. Gotta leak those tears out like a fucking Pixar movie. Fuck you, Toy Story 3 and 4. Anyway, yeah, so I gave the film 4 stars. Good. Realistically, there's no reason to watch the film based on this one actress's performance. So, like, I wouldn't sell the film to you by saying, "Oh, Masami's in it." Like, I mean, yeah, if you were a fan of the actress herself, but also maybe if you're in Japan, she is probably a selling point. Enough of a selling point, given that she's the third main character in the film, pretty much. Outside of arguably the grandma, like she's like the main character next to Futaki's side, whereas the grandma is the main character for Mitsu's side. So yeah, but in terms of the film itself, I would highly recommend it. Of course, because it's an anime, I'd recommend the Blu-ray format or higher quality format, 1080p, of course. Yeah. Check out the film, whether for Masami or for itself, or because the director is really good. And lucky last, the fun one. Oh my god! So obviously, I'm a big fan of Godzilla films. I hope that's obvious enough from the fact that I have a Godzilla toy and 2 T-shirts and a keychain. And Shin Godzilla on Blu-ray, and I don't have the 1998 Godzilla film because, I mean, Matthew Broderick. Nor the 2014 one, but I do really like the 28 and 19 one, King of the Monsters. Anyway, American ones aside, I have all of these big-ass collections. This being the Millennium Series Box Set, which is the last series box set. There was also like the Heisei and Heisei, and 2 ones before it that were like 2 different volumes, but I can't remember what they were called. One was like the original franchise of Godzilla, then it was like, oh, we can actually continue it because it's still really popular, and so they did, and then I think it was Showa, like SHOWA, I think it was like the rule of the emperor or prime minister or whatever. I can't remember what exactly it was that my cousin was telling me. I think it's like, the dynasty or whatever, I think. So they've actually, named based on a period of time rather than by specific characters or specific creators, which is interesting. Millennium, obviously, because it's post-2000. Literally, because the first one was called Godzilla 2000. In this box set, of course, you have Godzilla 2000, Godzilla vs. Mechagod, Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, in brackets 3, and Godzilla Tokyo SOS, which is the sequel to Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Most of these films are kind of direct sequels to Godzilla. Like, if you know anything about Godzilla lore, pretty much the majority, it's hard to find a direct sequel to anything that isn't already a sequel to Godzilla. Pretty much everything, you have like the first Godzilla, and then everything else is its own individual film. They're just, this is like the only 2 that have an actual direct sequel. So it's Mechagodzilla 3 is a kind of direct sequel to the original Godzilla. And then Tokyo SOS is an actual direct sequel to Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 3. And then, of course, there is Final Wars, which is another sequel direct to the original Godzilla with no reference of any others. So that's pretty much how they roll. Because you can make up whatever you want to. Because that's how storytelling works. So, yeah. I didn't watch Tokyo SOS, even though, yes, you can criticize me on that because it's a really, really good one, actually. Because I would have had to rewatch Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. How can I word this? I love these films. I've seen all these films at least once each. Now Godzilla Final Wars twice. I know I will be watching Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 3 soon-ish, within the next few months, and following that with Godzilla Tokyo SOS, because they're like some of the best examples of a Godzilla film. And I know that kind of weirdly, because the first one, versus Mechagodzilla, doesn't have Mothra in it. Tokyo SOS does. If you know anything about Mothra lore, Mothra has the two twin fairies, who are usually tiny in comparison to everyone else because they're fairies, unless it's, Godzilla King of the Monsters and suddenly they're just two grown women and they're not fairies and they hardly mention the fact that they're related to Mothra, just the fact that in their family is a bunch of twins. And it's like, really? And she's a Chinese actress? Not even Japanese? What are you doing, Godzilla movies? What are you doing, Universal? Beside the point. So yes, in its own respect, I would highly suggest watching Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla and Godzilla Tokyo SOS. Not exactly for Masami's performance, because, and this is the only reason why I'm not reviewing it, her performance is very similar in Final Wars. But Tokyo SOS is really good. If you're going to watch it, then you have to watch Mechagodzilla. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 3 first, but at the same time, it's worth it. So, Final Wars. Hot damn. As I said, I am not reviewing Tokyo SOS only because of the sequel, because again, she plays the same character in the other Godzilla film, so it's like, there's no real need to. It's like, watch one standalone film, which is also crazy-ass film, or watch two really good Godzilla films, one which, in terms of this review, is a waste of time, and the second one, which is a good use of time, but at the same time, it's like, I remember quite a lot of it as it is, because I only watched it last year, so it's like, I think it was last year anyway, but still, it's like, I don't need to panic myself. So, Godzilla Final Wars. Fuck knows who directed this, but, I know, because of course, classic Letterboxd review, I had to put in a quote. And the quote I put in was, I knew that tuna-eating monster was useless, obviously referencing the 1998 Godzilla, aka Zilla, that appears in Sydney, of all places, and then gets killed by Godzilla, because, it's Zilla, why wouldn't you kill it? It's great. So obviously that was a reference to the actual 1998 Godzilla film, which is very, very funny. That's a lot of fish. It was quite a time when Godzilla films were 50% John Woo-inspired fights, 30% Godzilla destroying things or monsters, and 20% Manila being Manila. Classic Manila. For this review, from the mind of someone who thinks he's John Woo, for reference, John Woo directed Mission Impossible 2, I think that's self-explanatory. Also, Hard-Boiled. Very good film. So yeah, so from the mindset of someone who thinks he's John Woo, comes a film full of action, hardship, brotherhood, and Manila. Especially Manila. Holy shit, put in a video clip of Manila. I hope I don't get stuck copyright straight for that clip of Manila. Manila's fucking weird, and I love him. He's great. He's like the best character in Godzilla films, except for, Godzilla himself. And arguably Ghidorah. Ghidorah's fun as shit. He's a fucking space dragon, and he's an alien. It's like, oh my god, thank god they actually did that in King of the Monsters. He's not from Earth. What do you mean? He's from space. He's an alien? Well, he's a fucking three-headed dragon. What, did you think he just came from the depths of the Earth? Nah. Anyway, so where aliens have come to Earth to, predictably, destroy it and use humans as cattle, where aliens have come to Earth to predictably destroy it and, use humans as cattle, as you do. A bunch of X-Men-like mutants who only appear to have the power of anime skills and using guns. I mean, they are big guns, like really big guns. Still, they must defeat. So these mutants must defeat Godzilla. Must defeat the aliens with the help of Godzilla. Yeah, no, it's literally an X-Men film, except it's just got Godzilla in it, and the fight choreography is The Matrix meets John Woo, and it's like, what the fuck is going on? It felt like a Matrix film. Like, Yeah, so it's John Woo's version of The Matrix, but obviously with the necessary addition of Godzilla, and all of the monsters, not really. If you actually look at the DVDs, so the DVDs do a classic thing of actually showing the different monsters that are in it. Here's a good example. So in Godzilla versus Mechagod, it has these four symbols, which showing you all the different monsters that are in the film, which is pretty fun. Skip all the way to the end, and like Tokyo SOS, for example, just has Godzilla, Mechagodzilla, and Mothra. Simple. Final Wars has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 fucking characters. Yeah, you can't really read all the names, but they're there. What is that? That's like Mothra, Rodan, Anguarius, I guess. King Caesar. King Caesar's like a giant mutant dog thing. Weird. Obviously Godzilla. There's Zilla. Gigan, Monster X. Actually, it's Monster X1 and Monster X2. Spoilers. There is there's just other guys. I'm not going to read the rest. You get the idea. There are a lot of monsters. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Like King Kong doesn't show up, for example. It's Final Wars. It's fun. So yeah, moving on. So Masami Nagasawa plays a fairy twin, as I previously mentioned. Very, very small girl, who, with her twin, explained to our main characters of some device that might come in handy later. Look, here's this cross-like thingy. We don't know what it'll do. It might help you. We don't know. It just turns a guy from being evil to being good again. They literally stab a guy in the back, and he's just like, I'm good again. Now I can anime skill and punch this guy out of the sky. Punch this guy out of the sky? Wow. I didn't even script that. Yeah, generally the twins accompany Mothra, which they always do. These twins, of course, do as well. And give advice to the human protagonist regarding some event or character of the film. In this film, Nagasawa is in 2 scenes plus, I think, a deleted scene that is shown in the end credits rather than the actual films. In that case, I should mention they come up twice when it comes to them giving the characters the device, and then another one. But then there's a scene in the end credits that I'm very sure was not in the actual film where you see Mothra flying away from her island, but there's a scene where it flies away, like flies out of the vent and flies away out of a tunnel, and the girls stand there and wave at it. And it's the only time I actually was able to say, that one's Masami, that one isn't. Because there are obviously 2 different actresses that play the twins, which is strange, given that even in the Godzilla King of the Monsters 2019, they used the same actress. One had short hair, one had long hair. I guess it's a nice enough difference, and they were in 2 different locations, so you didn't have to put them back to back, which, again, in modern day effects, you could. So, yeah, that's a weird thing. To my knowledge, the same girl who plays the twin next to Masami is from Tokyo SOS. But again, they don't do anything in the film. They give the characters an ex machina kind of. They don't even know if it'll do anything, and then just suddenly, here's the thingy, boom, he's back from, and then they wave goodbye to Mothra in the deleted scene. It's not even really a deleted scene. It's like a longer scene from what you actually see in the film, but it's put in the end credits instead because it's one of those classic things where they put a lot of scenes in the end credits, just behind, just scenes in the background, credits rolling on top, random ass scenes. It's not even the kind of film where it's let's just literally recap the film visually only within a 3-minute period of the end credits, and it's Okay, cool. But in this case, they don't even recap the whole film. They just show random ass scenes, and it's great because then like you just get two random scenes with Manila, and it's like, what is happening? You get like one of the last shots first, and then the last shot last. So it's like, okay then, that's weird. So yeah, due to Nagasawa being in the previous film, Tokyo SOS, she already knew how to play the fairy. It's not really hard. You wear one piece of clothing and you talk at the same time with the person next to you, which is another thing, because of course it's like, oh, let's try to recognize her voice. Nope, you can't, because they're literally speaking at the exact same time and they've got two different voices. Holy crap, what the fuck. And of course, because most of them were from a side angle, so you couldn't actually, she was always the one, when you had the shot, she was the furthest one from the camera, so you couldn't see her face enough to be like, I think that's Masami. Because conveniently, they always stand in the same kind of positions. You could just imagine that when they shot the film, they were like, oh, hey, we want you to come in with this person, we'll just get you back into your gear from the previous film, take like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours to shoot it, in front of a green screen or blue screen, done, easy. And that's probably what they did, because, yeah. I mean, it's easy. So in that film, of course, in SOS, she is actually more vital to the plot because, of course, that film revolves more around Mothra coming to tell humanity. She's like, hey, yo, of course, it's the twins who are saying this. They're like, hey, look, so Mothra will destroy you unless you guys actually destroy the bones of Godzilla. And then somehow Godzilla gets resurrected, and then they're like, "Oh shit, he's back." Actually, I think he came back, and they used the bones from Godzilla and put them into Mechagodzilla. It's a weird film. I mean, this film's weirder, but I'll get there. So they have more. She has more, the twins in general have more role. You can go and do stuff, Sam. Calm down. I'm just filming a video. Say hi to YouTube. He's not saying hi. He doesn't like you, YouTube. Well, that's because you're not. Open the window. Yeah, I'm almost done. Where was I? So yeah, so in the previous film, their role is much more vital because they're the communication side for Mothra, and of course they're trying to be the good guys. They're like, hey, look, this is what you have to do if you want to survive, simple. And it's, it's not bad because they're talking on part of Mothra rather than just being like, here's the next Machina. Then Mothra actually comes in later in the film and is the next Machina, because we already have another giant creature that Godzilla has to fight. Let's just be like, bugger it, Ghidorah's back, let's just get Mothra to come in and just take this bastard down. Sure, why not? Yeah, so she's definitely not the reason to watch this film. And it's hard for me to review her performance because, again, she talks at the same time with another character and you hardly even see her, so arguably much better performance in Tokyo SOS, probably the same type of performance in this one, just a lot more minimal. Still, you're not watching it for Masami, you're watching it for Godzilla, obviously. Why wouldn't you? But yeah, so nevertheless, I gave the film 3.5 stars because it is a very fun monster movie and Godzilla movie. It's a monster fest and it's great. Do you want to know what the plot is? They hunt down Godzilla, an earthquake happens at the Antarctic or North Pole, he falls into the ice, then suddenly monsters start attacking different places. This is actually like 5 years later, but they don't tell you that. Because they wait for a flashback near the end of the film to establish that factor. The storytelling in this film is really quite weird. And then aliens come and they're like, abduct the monsters, and they're like, we're here for world peace, to introduce you to intergalactic crap. And then it turns out that it's actually the movie V, and all these aliens are actually things in human skin. Boom, twist. Not really, it's very predictable. And then other stuff happens, and they use the monsters against them, and the humans are like, oh no, we're powerless, even though we have mutants, but the mutants don't actually have powers, they just like are really kung fu-y and can run on walls and shit. and use really big weapons, and it's like, why? Why do you have a force of mutants when... And then it's like, but apparently the people can, because the mutants have a gene, they can... It's similar gene to what the monsters have, and so the aliens can control the monsters and can sometimes control the mutants, but not all of them, like, can't control the main character for some reason, because the plot says so. And then they're like, we need to get a better monster. So they go and bring back Godzilla. And it's just, what the fuck? But then the first half of the film arguably is just strange, and I kind of tuned out, but like, it's interesting, but like after a second time, you're like, it's okay. The second half of the film, when they're like, fuck it, let's go get Godzilla. Boom, 10 out of 10. The movie just goes mental. Godzilla just starts going for all these different cities. And the thing about Godzilla in these films, he's still pissed off that, humanity blew the fuck out of him multiple times. And so, of course, as you would, he goes through the cities and just kills the big monsters, like Zilla, for example, has a fist fight with Zilla, then grabs him, throws him into the Sydney Opera House, then blows him up with his atomic breath, and just keeps walking through the city, destroying it. And does that with the next, 6 cities around the world in, apparently the period of a few hours. Just walks the whole entire world from, the South Pole to Sydney to Tokyo and, I think America, and then back to Tokyo again. So it's kind of weird, or maybe it was just from Antarctic all the way up to Tokyo, which I guess isn't a far walk for Godzilla, but sure, okay. And then anime fight with the people. Godzilla fights the big monster. The monster turns out to be Ghidorah, because why wouldn't you? And then Mothra comes in, helps out, and the humans attack the aliens who look like humans, and it's so anime, oh my god. And they just have a Matrix fight, and everyone else just has a big shootout, and then they just suddenly decide, fuck it, the ship's exploding, let's get the hell out of here. But then, of course, most importantly, Manila's there, randomly. Guy is hunting with his grandson, and then boom, Manila shows up, and the guy's like, what the fuck are you? And then Manila is just like, hey, it's me, your boy. Except he can't talk and he can't dab, because he's like a child dinosaur thingy. And kind of the son of Godzilla, but it's it depends on what movie you're watching. And then they just go for a drive, and then they see Godzilla destroying a place, and Manila gets inspired to use fire breath, and then suddenly he just turns gigantic, but you don't see it. You just see the camera going way up in the sky, and the kid and the old dude being like, what the And then cut to the end of the film, and Godzilla's about to kill the main characters, because he's like, hey, fuck you, humanity. I may have just saved you guys from giant monsters, but that's really all I do anyway. And because this is my goddamn planet, but I'm still going to blow up your cities. And he's about to kill the main characters. And then Manila comes in, and he's like, don't do it. Just go home. And so Godzilla's like, all right, fine. And then he just turns around and walks away into the sunset with Manila following him. And it's like, what the hell? Manila saved the day. 10 out of 10. It's a 3.5-star film. Yeah. So, yeah. Overall, end all be all, it's fun. The Godzilla movies are fun. Your Name was a good movie. Masquerade Hotel was fun as well, quite a good film, and Confidence Man. Masami Nagasawa definitely proves to be an actress that can definitely do stuff. Of course, the Godzilla films were early in her career. Your Name and these was second most, because of course these two were Tokyo SOS is 2003 and Final Wars is 2004. Your Name is 2016, and Confidence Man and the Masquerade Hotel are both 2019. Arguably 2018, but for the most part, it seems to all be 2019. Confidence Man we watched in cinema, and the other film, Masquerade Hotel, we did watch on the plane, but it said 2019, so I was like, okay, cool. I guess we're just getting a 2019 Japanese film on a plane instead of in the theatre, but that's okay, because it's in English, subtitled, so it's fine. Good enough for me. Would I argue that you should watch these films? Yes. Do I think she's a good actress? Yeah, actually. I'd probably even argue now that she's my favourite Japanese actress, but I don't really know who I'd compare her to be honest, because I don't know many Japanese actresses. Yeah. I don't really remember how I finished these videos. I guess, thanks for watching. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe for more. There is, of course, a playlist full of these videos where I review a collection of films with a certain actor in them, focusing mostly on their performance, but also explaining the film and slightly reviewing the film. I have previously done Cara Delevingne, Dakota Johnson, Aubrey Plaza, and Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves Part 2, coming soon to a theatre near you. I'm kidding, it's just YouTube. Theatre mode, YouTube theatre mode, oh, I love it, 10 out of 10. Hope you enjoyed this video. Again, please give me a like, I like likes. If you have a recommendation for someone who isn't yawning like I am now, okay, cool. Then yeah, hit me up with a recommendation as to who I should review next. Please. I mean, I have 2 more people in mind, but again, actors are quite easy to come by these days. They come in a dozen. It's like a pack of eggs. They're just there, and sometimes they break. No, that's not a teaser for the next actor. That'd be a great teaser, but no. So yeah, see you kids next time. I promise next time I'll be watching a lot more bad films because I like to mix it up. Sometimes I like to watch good films. It helps my sanity. Bye. Fuck, that coffee did nothing.